Hello and welcome to Valuechain News. I am Naomi Oleribe. First, the headlines. NNPC moves to end fuel scarcity soon. Maritime workers issue 14-day strike notice to federal government. EU proposes increase in supply of Nigerian LNG to Europe. And now, the news in detail. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) yesterday said the supply of petrol would normalize across the country in a few days, announcing that between now and the end of February, it expects at least 2.3 billion liters of the product in Nigeria. The announcement came as good news to Nigerians, especially in Lagos and Abuja, who had in the past couple of days have had to spend hours in long queues to fill their vehicle tanks. Valuechain gathered that there was movement of trucks within the FCT as at last night, which were on the line to discharge products in some filling stations, although many of the streets still remain clogged by traffic due to prevailing condition. In the last few days, thousands of passengers were seen stranded along major points within the city as few vehicles remained on the roads and black market sellers carried out bricks business, selling the fuel for as much as 700 naira per litre. While giving an update on the situation at the NNPC headquarters in Abuja during the week, Group Executive Director downstream of the National Oil Company, Mr. Adetunji Adeyemi, stated that Nigerians would heave a sign of relief in coming days. The Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria has issued a 14-day strike notice to the federal government over a disagreement with international oil companies, IOCs. The workers accuse the IOCs of non-compliance with the extant stevedoring regulations known as Government Marine Notice 106 of 2014. They decried the refusal of the IOCs to allow the stevedoring companies access to their platforms to commence the operations as required by law. It will be recalled that the Minister of Transportation, at a meeting held on Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, with the IOCs, representatives of MPA, NIMASA, stevedoring companies, and other stakeholders, directed that the IOCs should within 7 days allow the stevedoring companies access to their platforms to commence operations, which by extension will enable the registered dock workers along with the appointed stevedoring companies to operate in the IOC's platforms. The Government Marine Notice 106 applies to all companies and persons engaged in stevedoring work, including dock labor employers and private operators of any work location, including ports, jetties, onshore or offshore oil and gas or bonded terminals, inland container depot, off-dock terminals, dry ports and platforms. The Ijaw National Congress (INC) has expressed dismay over what is called the systematic and strategic relocation of the National Petroleum Investment Management Services (NAPIMS) office from Lagos to Abuja, despite the outcry against it. According to INC, the move smacks of insensitivity because the south-south region of the country is rightly the warehouse of oil and gas in the country. A statement signed by INC's publicity secretary declared the federal government, in connivance with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) top officials, are paying deaf ears to the continuous call for the relocation of the international oil companies (IOCs) to the south-south. The INC is aware of the planned movement of NAPIMS from Lagos to Abuja, as has since been masterminded by the federal government, just as we are also aware that the federal government wants to use the flimsy excuse of the collapse of a structure situated close to the NAPIMS office building as a justification to relocate the office to Abuja. We, the Niger Delta and South-South region, will not continue to fold our hands and watch our people being treated like slaves and made to play second fiddle role in the country that we all own. The case of NAPIMS, which is considered the most critical arm of the NNPC, driving the revenue of the upstream oil and gas sector of the nation's economy, has further indicated and demonstrated that our lamentations and outcry for the relocation of all IOC's offices to the South-South fell on deaf ears. President Akufo-Addo has reiterated that Ghana is still struggling to get more local companies to participate in the oil and gas industry years after laws allowing local content were enacted. The president, who was speaking at this year's International Energy Conference and Expo in Guyana, said the government is doing all it can to get more locals to participate in the sector. According to him, having more Ghanaians participate in the industry will ensure national development and create jobs. Akufo-Addo further noted that having mandatory regulations for local participation will be the way to go to address the challenge. A major challenge we'll be confronted with is how to develop the oil and gas industry with optimal local content and participations and enhance national development to create jobs. We resolve that the involvement of Ghanaians in the exploitation of oil and gas resources could be achieved through mandatory local content in all aspects of petroleum activities, he said. In January 2022, President Akufo-Addo announced plans by the government to acquire major stake in Ghana's oil and gas industry by building more local capacity in various aspects of the management of the industry. He said the government is training more Ghanaians ahead of time to have an industry that is heavily driven by locals in the near future. European Commission Vice President Margaret Vestager has met with the Nigerian Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on the prospect of increasing Nigerian LNG supplies to Europe. The parties discussed trade investments and the prospect of increasing Nigerian LNG supplies to the EU. According to a source close to the Vice President, the importance of the energy relationship between Nigeria and the EU was discussed, while a consideration of all options for increased supply of LNG from Nigeria to EU was agreed on following a request from the EU. Osinbajo welcomed the EU's recent proposal to consider gas as a sustainable investment in its taxonomy. We are relieved to hear of the EU's support on gas as a transition fuel. It's some bit of relief. Nigeria LNG Limited (NLNG) is considered one of the most important economic projects in the country. Since it began its operations in 1999, when it shipped its first LNG cargo, NLNG has brought significant economic benefits to Nigeria. The country is expected to have 100 oil and gas projects commencing operations across the value chain between 2021 and 2025, accounting for 23% of the total projects starts in Africa. The Executive Secretary, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, Teju Abisoye, has commended Google for its new initiative aimed at empowering 5,000 small and mid-sized enterprises, SMEs, and entrepreneurs across Africa. Google has stated that 5,000 SMEs and entrepreneurs in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya will be receiving free training to help their businesses thrive via the newly launched Hustle Academy. The program is open to businesses that have been in operations for more than a year and developed a business strategy as well as defined their product or service offering and are aiming to grow. They must also have made profits in the previous 12 months or be within 1 to 3 months of breaking even. Abisoye described the academy as a laudable initiative that will help improve business prospects and also create the impact desired at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our headline. NNPC moves to enforce scarcity soon. Maritime workers issue 14-day strike notice to federal government. EU proposes increase in supply of Nigerian LNG to Europe. And that's the news. I am Naomi Oleribe. Good evening.